Welcome to the Groundhog's Day edition of Backstage with hashtag RDM right here on the Radio Random Network. Thank you for hitting the play button wherever you're listening to us from, whether it be iHeartRadio, iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher, YouTube. Good Lord, there's so many these days that I can't even keep up anymore. But if it is your first time listening to Backstage with hashtag RDM, welcome, and we hope you enjoy the show. Got a great show for you today. Been on Twitter. By the way, shout out to the Potter family on Twitter for all the help and all the retweets and everything. But one of our friends wanted us to interview some more actors, some more people from the film world. So, by our special request, that's what we got today. I'm going to be joined by Miss Chantel Riley, who is a singer. She's an actor. She's a writer. She's the total package. She's going to be in the upcoming film Race, the story of Jesse Owens. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about her role as Nyla on Broadway's big production of The Lion King, her transition from Canada to New York. We're also going to be talking about the giveaway for February in honor of having Miss Stella Parton, Dolly Parton's sister, on last week's show. For the month of February, our giveaway, we're going to be giving away autographed copy of Stella Parton's brand new album, Mountain Songbird, A Sister's Tribute. Now, with all of that said, all you have to do is go on over to RadioRandomNetwork.com, sign up for the newsletter, and you're automatically entered for life in our monthly contests and giveaways. We have a great show for you today. Let's go ahead and get the ball rolling. Let's pay a few bills. When we come back, I'll be talking with Miss Chantel Riley. Today's podcast is brought to you by Gamefly.com. You can sign up for a premium free 30-day trial specifically for the listeners of the Radio Random Network. All you have to do is go to www.gameflyoffer.com/backstage to get your free 30-day trial.
This is Radio Random Network. Find us on the web at www.radiorandomnetwork.com.
If you enjoyed this episode, please leave us a review on iTunes. You're backstage with hashtag RDM on Radio Random Network. Now, here's the host, hashtag RDM, Russell Devin McLean.
All right, joining me today on Backstage with hashtag RDM on the Radio Random Network. She's an actress. She's doing a lot of great things. She's in New York. She's on Broadway. I'm talking to none other than Miss Chantel Riley. How you doing, Chantel?
I'm so good. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, thank you for giving us the time to talk to you. I mean, it's not every day you get to talk to somebody that's actually in New York City on Broadway, you know. Usually when they say Broadway, they mean it's up the road somewhere, you know. It's not usually in the actual, the famous New York, you know what I mean? Right
in Times Square. We're right there.
Right, Times Square. Boy, that's on the bucket list for sure. Well, look, what we're going to do is down here, I'm here in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. You're hundreds of miles away, but I know the lingo's a little different. But down here, when you start the show with our guests, I like to just ask, what's been going on?
Well, let's see. So up until recently, we actually had a huge snowstorm. I don't know if you guys heard about it.
Sure did.
Attacked New York City, and we actually didn't have a show on Saturday.
Oh, wow.
Last weekend. That's how bad it was.
Now, let me...
So we had the day off.
Real quick, I hate to interrupt you, but you know, I mean, I know your weekends are usually involved being on stage, and does that kind of mess you up a little bit? Does that mess up your routine whenever you don't get to perform?
It was definitely weird to have a Saturday off because we usually never have Saturdays off. So I remember just pretty much sitting on my couch all day and being like, "Oh, so this is what our normal life is." You have an actual weekend. You just chill and do nothing on Saturdays. Because usually our days off are Mondays. We only have one day off.
Wow.
So it was definitely like a weird feeling. Like, I know I need to be somewhere right now, but obviously I can't because the roads are shut down. But so I'm just going to enjoy this moment and just relax today.
Well, that's cool. Now, you were born in Canada, correct?
Yes, I'm from Toronto, Canada.
So the snowstorm, the blizzard, the cold weather, and everything, that probably didn't bother you too much, does it?
I mean, we definitely get it up there too, and it's still something that I'll never get used to. That's the first thing people say to me if I'm complaining about the snow. They say, "You're from Canada. You get this all the time." I said, "That doesn't mean I have to like it."
Exactly. Well, you see down here in the South, it gets so, if it gets right now, I think it's 50 degrees, man, we're bundled up, I mean.
Really?
Yeah,
50?
we're freezing our asses off,
right now.
man. But seriously, man.
I would love to have that right now.
Yes, indeed. So, I mean, you was talking about being off that Saturday night. I mean, what's a typical? I mean, before you were involved on Broadway, and we'll get to how you got there in a minute. But what's a typical Saturday night for you if you're off? I mean, what kind of stuff are you doing? Are you trying to go out and have go dancing, or are you home studying?
Well, usually with the schedule, it's a little more difficult to kind of go out because, especially on a Saturday night, our show is done by 10:30, and we have 2 shows on a Saturday. So, and then we have a following 2 shows on Sunday. So nobody's trying to really go anywhere on a Saturday night because we have to get right back on that stage the next morning. So, yeah, my Saturday nights are pretty boring, other than the fact that I get to perform on stage, which is amazing and fun. But after 10:30, I'm on that train, and I'm back in my apartment in my bed.
Yes, indeed. Now, was it a culture shock coming from Toronto to New York for you?
Not so much. Toronto, I feel like, is similar to New York. It's just on like a smaller scale. Just as much as it's the diversity here is pretty much the same as Toronto, and lots of different people from lots of different cultures live in Toronto, and so that wasn't so much the difficult case. For me, it was mainly when I moved to Germany. That was when I first did the Lion King in Hamburg. Yes, that was a huge, okay, this is very different than what I'm
Yes, indeed.
Living in Europe. And it was an amazing experience, and I'm so glad I got to do it. I mean, the language barrier, of course, was one of the hardest things.
I can imagine.
You kind of pick up on that as soon as you possibly can, especially if you're trying to eat something. You try to learn German as quickly as possible.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
Well, all right. Well, let's rewind, and this is something I should have did a while ago, just to let everybody know out there listening. You played Nyla in The Lion King on Broadway. Now let's go back a little bit. Let's rewind. For one thing, for us down here, I mean, New York seems like it's eons away, but. For you, how did you land the spot as Nyla on The Lion King?
Well, prior to booking the job, I was working as an insurance adjuster for auto insurance. I had just graduated school and needed a full-time job and, start my professional life as an adult. And was working there for about a year and a half. And I remember just sitting at my computer. My back was hurting me, shoulders tight. That 9 to 5. I said, God, this is not for me. I'm sorry, but something's got to change. And he allowed that to happen. A friend of mine had introduced me to an open casting call that Disney was holding in Toronto at the time. And I just took the chance and said, you know what, I'm just going to go and figure it out and see what happens. At that moment, I was singing in my church, and I, was a worship leader there and did some church plays and stuff. But, that was the only kind of acting I actually really did. And I was part of, the drama team there. And I went to the audition, sang a few songs for them, got some callbacks, and then a couple months later, I was asked to fly to Germany to audition for Nala over there in German. So I had to pretty much learn Nala's song and most of the script as much as I possibly could in German. So after that audition, I was told right away that I booked the job.
Wow.
And I was in Germany for about a year and did the show there. I was a part of their 10-year anniversary, which is huge. The show's been running over there now, I think, 13 years in Hamburg. And after I finished my run in Germany, I was asked to audition for Julie Taymor, who is the creator and the director of Lion King Broadway. And That was a huge audition for me. I was a little nervous, but just tried to do my best. And of course, of all days, I had the worst cold and sounded the worst I've ever sounded in my entire life. But hey, I left it in God's hands, and He delivered, because a few weeks later I was asked to go to Broadway and have been on Broadway for 3 years.
Yes, indeed. That is so cool. Now, you know, you talked about being a worship leader at church, and you talked about singing in church. But I mean, was this on a whim, or was acting and performing something that you'd already had experience in?
No, you know what? I knew I enjoyed it just for fun, but I never would have thought in a million years that I would be in this position right now. Like, I just thought, okay, I'll go to school. I went to York University in Toronto, and I graduated with a degree in sociology, it's a bachelor's, and just thought, okay, I'll just work and save money and just do whatever I can. But on the side, I was interested in teaching dance, because I also taught dance to some of the kids at my church as well. And I thought, okay, I'm going to become a dance teacher and teach at my old dance studio. And then so when this opportunity came, it was just kind of like, okay, I think I kind of like this.
That's awesome. Now, when go ahead. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, go ahead.
Well, I was going to ask, I mean, you know, some people work all their lives, and I'm sure you probably get this all the time, but some people work all of their lives to get where you are, you know. I mean, do you feel any kind of professional jealousy around any, like, seasoned or veteran actors or actresses, or that see your position, and do they give you any grief over that?
You know what? No. I'm very grateful for that. I'm glad you asked that question, because the people that I work with, some of them have tried years to, you know, be in the position they are in now. And instead of looking at it as, you know, a negative thing like my journey, they appreciate their own journey and know what they had to go through in order to get to where they are now. And they appreciate it, and it makes them appreciate their job even more. So there was never any kind of strife or like, oh, you just got here and you didn't have to work for it. And in fact, people hear my story and they're, you know, shocked.
Right.
But they feel like, wow, it's a huge blessing and you have to go through that. But they do appreciate their own journey and what they had to go through in order to be where they are now. So there's no kind of strife at all for anything like that.
Well, that's pretty interesting. I mean, you know, just sitting here thinking, that's just the way it goes. And you know, I guess going back to the worship thing, I mean, God don't give you, He's not going to give you anything you can't handle. You know, I'm sure you agree with me on that. And I don't want to turn it completely into that, but I mean, you know, I guess in the world of acting and in that world, I mean, I guess you're pretty much grateful for anything you can get, because I mean, there's a lot of people out there trying to do it.
No, absolutely. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Absolutely right. That's why I really can't take what I'm doing and where I am in my life for granted or take advantage of it, because I know that there are people that had to work way harder than I did and put so much more time into their craft than I had to. And I'm pretty much learning as I go. And I've learned to take classes and read books and go to vocal coaches now, you know what I mean? And I'm learning that. But I'm also grateful for these people that have gone through that, because then they're like my mentors now. And they're very open to, if I need to ask them any questions and if I need to find a great acting coach in the city, they're always open to sharing their information with me. So I'm very glad to be surrounded with people that are more seasoned than I am.
Yes, indeed. Now, do those guys, I mean, do they, what kind of advice, have they shared any advice or any tips as far as the profession goes to you that maybe you use or you incorporate in your daily life?
Well, one advice that a friend of mine, her name is Benita Hamilton Caesar, and she plays Shenzi in the show. It's one of the hyenas, the lead hyenas. And when I first got into the show, I was taking it maybe a little too seriously, in a way where I would just get on stage and maybe just act a little too tense. And, you know, you kind of get in a place and you're nervous and you're, you know, trying so hard to think about all the notes, the pages and pages of notes that your director just gave you 2 seconds before you have to go on stage. And she said, you know what? It's a play. So play. Have fun. And that's something that I've pretty much lived by these past 3 years on Broadway, is just having fun. And it's been able to help me to just relax and enjoy my job and not stress out of notes and stuff, but instead focusing on having a great time and allowing the audience to have a great time also.
Yes, indeed. That's awesome. All right, now we're going to move on a little bit. As I sit here and I'm talking to Chantel Riley. She plays Nala in The Lion King. But Chantel, you're also there's a movie coming out. It's going to be in theaters February 19th. It's about the life of Jesse Owens. It's called Race, and you actually play in, and I'm probably going to botch the name, but is it Quincelo Nickerson?
Yeah, Quincelo Nickerson.
That's it. That's your character. Now, give us how get involved with this. I mean, how did this come up?
Well, I have an agent, so they get a bunch of auditions that they find that I may be suitable for, and they kind of email them to me, because my agent actually lives in Toronto, so she just emails me and asked me to put this audition on tape, and then what they do is they submit it. And so I did my audition on tape. I was a little nervous because usually, most actors say it's best to kind of get in the audition room so that they could get your vibe and, feel how you are and your personality and stuff. So I thought I probably have a disadvantage since it's just a self-tape. But turns out they liked what they saw because I booked the job after all. And, so that's how I got hired.
That's awesome. That is awesome. So, music, you do sing, but acting is actually, you have pretty much taken the bull by the horns. I mean, the film Race, this ain't nothing just to pass by or shake a stick at. This is a big deal. It's about Jesse Owens.
Yeah, it's a huge story. Yeah, it's definitely a huge story. And it's coming at the perfect time, I feel like, especially for African Americans in film and just what's been going on right now with the Oscars and stuff. So I just feel like it's such a perfect moment for this film and this story to be told, because he was a champion, and was an Olympic champion, an American champion, an American hero. So the story was due to be told. I'm so excited to be a part of it. I'm so honored to be a part of it.
Yes, indeed. All right, now we're going to move on to a little personal thing, and I know you were on our buddy over there on the W4CY.com network. They have the Jimmy Star Show. I think you was with them last week, wasn't you?
Yes.
All right, so I'm pretty sure I haven't had a chance to listen to last week's show with Jimmy and those guys, so I missed it. But I'm pretty sure this was brought up. Is there a boyfriend or a husband in your life right now?
Why? Are you asking because you're interested?
Huh?
Are you asking because you're interested?
Maybe. You're pretty hot. I mean, I'm sure I'll get skinned after this, but it's all good. That's where I was going with it a little bit, No, I'm just kidding. The profession, I'm pretty sure, being on Broadway, being in the entertainment business, period, it takes a lot of time, It
does.
And
I've just been, Go ahead.
And a lot of times there's not a lot of people that, you don't have time for it, and a lot of people really don't understand the stress and the controversy actually that comes with the deal whenever they date somebody in the entertainment industry. So a lot of people can't hang and they can't handle it. So I was just wondering how the home life was and what the support was like.
Well, personal life, I like to try to keep it as personal as possible.
Totally understandable.
But like you said, it does, we'll just stick with it. It does get really busy over here. And in this community, it could be a little difficult to meet someone. But right now, I'm just kind of focused on doing my work and getting to the best I possibly can be.
Yes, indeed. And you were asking if I was interested. You're very pretty and all, but I don't think the I don't think the long distance thing would work out, to tell you the truth. I'm just kidding. I'm a happily engaged man, actually. Happily engaged.
Congratulations.
Yes. But you are very hot, very nice. And
thank you.
Do you get hit on a lot in the industry? Do you have a lot of guys that come through there and try to pick you up or anything?
No, not really. And that's why I'm like, okay, is something wrong with me? Do I look mean?
I'm going to be honest. I think it's your charisma. You have, earlier when I'd answered the phone, you have a lot of charisma. And just as you was talking a while ago about the, sending a audition tape, I don't think you would have a problem with that. I mean, even through doing this interview, I could tell you have a lot of good energy and a lot of charisma.
Thanks.
It's one of those things.
I like to think I'm a fun gal.
Yeah.
I think I'm pretty cool.
There you go.
But I also, like I said, the show takes up a lot of time. And, when we're not doing the show, we're doing other activities and taking classes and stuff. So it is pretty difficult to even run into anybody or meet people new.
Yes, indeed.
If I'm not at the theater, I'm in my house studying or, doing projects. So it could be a little difficult.
Well, if a lot of times I don't know how it is as far as being an actress. Now, myself, I am a musician, and I do, I'm not a recording artist, but I am a pretty big deal around these parts. But
nice.
Yeah. With that said, I know, sometimes trying to leave the club or the event center at 2:00 in the morning. I don't really want to talk to nobody, to tell you the truth. I'm ready to go home and take a shower and go to bed. But on Broadway, do you have groupies? Is there, do you have stage rats or whatever you want to call them up there? But do you have that hanging around in the back?
We definitely don't call them stage rats. We call them fans.
Well, you're a fan until an extent. Now, there's fans, and then there's.
We do have a couple hardcore fans that come to the theater, every week looking, and they just wait to get autographs and stuff and photos. But after the show, every once in a while, we'll have a huge group of people waiting by the stage door, just trying to get some autographs and pictures, which I love doing because I love being able to interact with the audience and
very much so.
Just tell them that we actually, it shows that we care. You know what I'm saying, and that we have time for them, and they spent their time to come see us. So that's the least that we could do. Say hello.
Yes, indeed. Well, where do you want to go from here? What's some of your goals? Let's talk about that. Like I said, you got the Jesse Jackson movie Race, and by the way, it's going to be out in theaters February, I think it was 19th. But where do you see yourself going after this? What are some of the things that maybe you're trying to push towards?
Well, I'm pretty much just trying to take over the world.
We all are. I'll meet you at the top.
I love what I do, but I also would love to get into doing some more film, and television, which would be awesome. So that's what I'm hoping to be the next step. Broadway is always going to be home, though, and I'm so grateful to be able to have started off on stage, because I've actually, just been watching a lot of cool interviews on, Hollywood Reporter. They do a lot of actors roundtables, and a lot of them have started on stage and have done Broadway for years. And to see now that they're like these successful film actors, and they always talk about how they have to go back to the stage, and they love being able to go back to the stage. So I'm so grateful that I got to start there, and now it has prepared me for film and TV work as well. So that's what I'm kind of hoping is next.
Yes, indeed. Now, as far as your, you said you were a vocalist, you sing. So, is it mainly just the gospel music that you're into, or do you enjoy singing other genres of music?
No, I love pretty much all types of music. Gospel music is what I've been raised on. It's obviously something I love to be a part of and to sing. Actually, I'm singing at a gospel concert tonight. But I love listening to, some forms of rock. I love listening to R&B and hip hop and, just a different variety of music. I'm into everything.
Yes, indeed. Now, have you recorded an album? Do you have an album out or anything of that sort?
I don't have an album out, but I do have, I have a single out, or 2 singles out.
Oh, really?
And they're both on iTunes. You can look them up on iTunes. One of them is called All My Love.
Mm-mm.
You can find that on iTunes. That's the most recent one that I have up right now.
That's awesome.
And it's for 99 cents.
99 cents, man. You can't beat that with a stick.
$1.
No, you can't beat that with a stick. 99 cents, and you get some, some online, on-demand audio entertainment from iTunes, and
iTunes.
that's
it's
it.
On Google Play.
And Google Play as well. Yes, indeed.
Yep.
Well, with the music thing, I mean, what happens? I mean, because pretty much, like you said, you're trying to take over the world. From where I'm sitting, it looks like you're doing a damn good job. But with that said, I mean, what if would you push that opportunity if it was to come available? If you had a record company or someone approach you and say, "Hey, look, we would like to sign you. We would like to do something with you." Would you go for that?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I feel like, God gave me the gift, so I would make sure I'd want to use it and give it right back to him. So definitely don't want to just sit on that, So yeah, if the opportunity came up, absolutely. If it's the right timing, of course, in my life, then I would definitely give it that chance.
Yes, indeed. That's so awesome. It's so awesome sitting here. I am talking to Miss Chantel Riley. She's an actress, a singer. And look, I just noticed one thing as I'm sitting here looking around on the World Wide Web here. You're also a writer. At least according to your Twitter page there.
Yeah.
By the way, for those of you that want to keep up with her, you can go to @Chantel_Riley. And you can find all that in the show notes of today's show. But tell us a little bit about the writing thing. Is that something that you just put up there, or is writing something that you kind of is that like a hidden passion, something that you keep?
Yeah, it's definitely something that I do pretty much any spare time that I have, and that's just writing pretty much about events that go on in my life, or writing music that I love doing, or I work with a friend of mine. His name's James Brown Orleans. He's also in the show, and we do a lot of projects together. So if it means writing with that and incorporating some of my stuff into his work, I do that as well. So yeah, definitely do some writing.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Writing, for some reason, I don't know. I mean, you got people that sing in the shower and everything, and sooner or later they get drunk and get up at a karaoke bar and they take off. But writing is something different. I know sometimes, like, I write songs or and different things or whatever. But for whatever reason, and maybe you can explain this to me as an actress or as a writer or as somebody in the entertainment business, especially with the passion that you have for it. What is it about writing that that's something that not a lot of people really want to share with the world?
You know what? I feel like when you're writing, it's your most, at least for me, it's like your most intimate thoughts that you write on that paper. And sometimes that's something you don't want to share because you're afraid of what people might think. You're afraid of people just judging, what you were just writing and what you were feeling at that time. And it was an honest moment in your life. And so that's kind of scary to share with people. And I feel like, not many people walk around like they're an open book. And of course, we don't tell everybody our secrets, our deep, dark secrets. And that's kind of stuff that we want to keep to ourselves. That's like the same thing with writing. We just want to keep it to ourselves. And we're just nervous that if we do share it with someone, they're going to think it's dumb or that it sucks or that it doesn't make sense. So I think we're afraid of getting our feelings hurt.
Yes, indeed.
And that's why we don't share so much of ourselves. So that way we just keep it in and we just keep it to ourselves. And that way, safer there.
Totally understandable. That's something that I've, I just asked you off the cuff that question because, as a musician, as a songwriter myself, I mean, that's, it always takes, it seems like takes a little bit more for me to open up and actually share that with somebody else. Now, I mean, of course. I guess it's afraid somebody will judge your creativity for myself, but you never know until you put it out there. But with that said, I mean, how do you handle constructive criticism? Are you the type of person that can you take it, or do you look at it as offensive?
I think when I first started, it was something that I used to get offended by, because I was new to this and didn't know much about it or how to handle criticism. But as I grew in this industry and even has gotten older, I've been able to learn that not all criticism is bad criticism. And in fact, I used it in order to build myself up and to learn. And so I think I've definitely developed a thicker skin towards it and not be offended when someone says, you're doing this wrong. or this isn't, good enough.
Right.
But I use that to build myself up and to get better and to become stronger instead of just moping around and saying, well, forget it. What do you know anyway? You know what I mean? And just completely, turn your back towards that person. So, yeah, I definitely do not get offended by it anymore, at least. But before, yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
You can't tell me nothing. I'm going to cry.
Wow.
That's how it was.
That's
yeah.
passion, man. That's passion. That's exactly what it is. It's passion. A lot of people take it the wrong way, like you can't tell nobody nothing.
Right.
But that's actually that's passion because you put your heart and soul in everything you do, and you hope for a great outcome. I understand completely.
Exactly.
With all of that said, real quick, give some advice to any young, up-and-coming female actors, actresses, singers, writers, or entertainers that would maybe want to follow in Chantel Riley's footsteps.
I love to give this advice, and it's trust your gut. Trust yourself. You are good enough. There's no point in comparing yourself to other people because other people have their own journey and how they get to where they get to. And so it's best to just believe in yourself, pray, believe it, receive it, and see yourself where you want to be. And if you have that vision and you can see yourself where you want to be, then that's your goal that's already set, and it's going to push you and work so hard to get to that place. So trust yourself, believe yourself that you can be there, visualize yourself there, and you will get there. Don't give up.
Don't give up. Best advice I've heard so far. Chantel, thank you so much for joining me today. It was a pleasure.
Thank you for having me.
And an honor to sit here and bother you for the past 30 minutes. And
it was not a bother. Don't say that.
But with all that said, well, look,
not at all.
When you get on the big screen and I email your publicist for an interview maybe a couple of years down the road, please accept it.
Absolutely.
No, we usually. Yes, indeed. And if you ever get around Louisiana, be sure and look us up. We'd love to bring you to the studio, hang out, and chat, and maybe go clubbing, or go
clubbing.
or we'll go to church. We can go to church too. I mean, whatever you want to do. I mean, and I'm not blasphemy. I'm telling the truth. It's all good. So, Chantel, you take care of yourself in New York. You stay warm. And with all of that said, thanks everybody for tuning in to today's episode of Backstage with #RDM Russell McLean right here on the Radio Random Network. And I'll be back next Tuesday. For more information about Chantel, you can go to ChantelRiley.com, which is under construction. Site will be up soon, but you can follow her on Facebook as Chantel Riley or on Twitter at Chantel Riley. And also February 19th, Race will be out in theaters. Be sure and go check it out. Chantel, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
If you enjoyed this episode, please leave us a review on iTunes.
All right, I want to send a shout out to Chantel Riley for calling in today, and I also want to send a shout out to her publicist, October Coast, and the October Coast Gang for hooking us up with the interview, hooking us up with Miss Chantel Riley for today's show. Shout out to our peeps on Twitter. You could follow the show on Twitter at Backstage_RDM. You can follow me on Twitter at RussMCLA2012. With all of that said, guys, don't forget you can support the Radio Random Network and keep our shows free for all of our listeners by simply going to RadioRandomNetwork.com, clicking on the support tab, and it'll give you all the ways to support, whether you're shopping with our sponsors, rating and reviewing us on iTunes, that helps with the algorithms, or supporting us on Patreon for as little as $1 a month. With all of that said, guys, we're going to be back next week. It's going to be a brand new format. We're going to have a musical guest. We're going to have another actor with us. And don't forget to tune in Friday for the Russell and Mudtooth show. And just a reminder that all of today's links are in the show notes for today's show. All you got to do is go to RadioRandomNetwork.com, click on Chantel Riley's name. You'll find trailer to her movie, all kind of information about her, all kind of information about us. With all of that said, guys, it's time to go home. I'm #RDM Russell Devin McLean. This is Backstage with #RDM on the Radio Random Network. Thank you so much. We will talk to you next week.
every Tuesday at 7:05 p.m. Central Standard Time for a show created for musicians and music lovers alike. Backstage with #RDM. For more information about the hosts, guests, or our other weekly programs, visit RadioRandomNetwork.com.
Thanks for listening.